Why do you think it is that we have so few young people running? We have such an elderly Senate presidency. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, and to be clear, this is not normal. So the gap between the average age of our elected officials and the average age of our citizens is wider in the United States than it is in a lot of other places.
Yeah.
Some of that I think is cultural. I think we've grown up with this idea that you're supposed to wait your turn or wait many, many turns before you step forward. Obviously, I didn't believe in that. I mean, running for mayor in my 20s, I ran for president in my 30s, and people responded. But there is that kind of cultural expectation that you just kind of wait. And I encourage young people who care about politics and care about their country or their community not to do that, not to wait.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you should know what you're doing. Have a vision if you're thinking about running for office. But I wish more people would. There are also some features of our system that might actually systematically make that more true. So compared to other democracies, we have more of a winner-take-all system in the way that our congressional elections work, for example. A lot of countries, you'd be in a place where there would be multiple members in a single district, and the top 3 or something like that get through. Some political scientists have argued that in that setup, you tend to have more young candidates or new candidates because a party will put forward a whole roster of people versus here where it's down to whichever 2 people had the money and the institutional support to become the nominees of the 2 parties.
Right, in every race.
Yeah, at least in most places. You do have those open primaries, which I think can help with that a little bit. And we have seen very young people, obviously, that are an exception to the rule. But I'm really concerned that there are a lot of structural things in the U.S. that systematically kind of repress the chances for a lot of young people to step up at a very moment where we need more young people to be engaged. I mean, the pitch I always make is, the younger you are, the longer you're planning to be here, the more you have irreversibly at stake in a whole set of decisions, right? And these decisions are going to be made with or without you. So at the very least, you ought to be voting, but also you should find ways to be involved in those processes.
I don't know. The system is putting forward the best 75-year-olds possible.
We talked about it on this show, but I think in my lifetime, I'm 34. Every president, maybe other than Obama, was born exactly in 1946.
Yes.
Every single one.
Think about that.
That's astounding.
Yeah. I mean, Trump, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, they were all born within a few weeks of each other. I think.
Yeah.
And so, they entered our consciousness maybe at different ages, but they're all the same age as each other. Except
so they have
Obama.
the same they grew up in the same values. They have the same
understanding. Do we need some sort of like mega birth year where we create
when the millennials take over
the 5 greatest millennials, and then we got?
We run it for you.
I am curious. I was going to ask this later about your role as mayor, but since you brought it up, we have a lot of young folks, including we're young.
We're young, right?
We're young.
Right, Chet?
And what you just said about being involved, I personally have felt a sense of helplessness with politics. I think that's why I often am just drawn to tech and not to current events, because it feels like, well, at least I can make a computer do a thing. There's like a result that can happen. Yeah. So, for you in your 20s to have gone and successfully do this, how specifically would you encourage people to go out and be involved when it feels so intractable?
Well, I would say start with what you care about. So, for different people, that means different things. For me, it had to do with the fate of the city that I'd grown up in. We were being called a dying city and in the national press, and I wanted to be part of a generation that would change that. But I would also say more broadly, there's a lot of processes that play out close to home, like these very unsexy things like the way a planning board is meeting or a zoning board or a city council or something like that. And maybe that doesn't sound like your idea of a fun way to spend a Tuesday night. But, things that everybody should care about, like whether housing is going to be built in your community that'll take the edge off of what it costs to rent or to try to own a home. Those play out in some of these processes, and not a lot of people go. So I'm not even just talking about the people who run or appointed to a board or a commission or city council or something like that, but just the people who even show up tend to skew older. They tend to be people with a direct kind of special interest. And I think a lot of folks don't realize those processes are open. Like you can show up. You could show up when I was mayor, anybody could come to a city council meeting, and I think you got 3 minutes. You could say whatever you wanted, and everybody would have to listen. And I actually think there's something important and healthy about that, if and only if a lot of people step up. Yeah, I mean, you compare that to Congress, where in order to testify in Congress, you have to be invited. or subpoenaed, like one or the other. And there are so many other processes in state and local government where all you have to do to make your voice heard is show up. Right. And I think I worry sometimes that in a more kind of virtualized digital environment that, you know, the younger you are, the more that's kind of the environment you came up in. You might overlook the fact that there are a lot of these processes where if you show up in 3D, you can literally force elected officials to hear what you have to say. As far as running, I think the important thing is to, again, obviously have a vision, know what you care about, and, you know, watch a certain office. Maybe it's a member of Congress. Maybe it's something more local. And, you know, one of two things will happen. Either you'll see a leader and you'll think, all right, they make a lot of sense. I want to support them with my vote, maybe more. Maybe you want to donate. Maybe you want to volunteer, be part of a campaign. Or you watch them and you're like, well, shit, I could do it better than that, right? And if you have that instinct, then that's a pretty good indication that maybe you should try.